All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the Agile Professionals Meetup. My name is Matthias. I work for REI Systems. We are a high-end software development company, mostly working for the federal government around grants management and open government transparency solutions. We're also one of the best places to work in the DC area, according to the Washington Post. Please feel free to check out the open positions we have. We have really big, ambitious hiring goals this year. So take a look at our website. If you think that this might be the place for you, let me know and go ahead and apply, and we'll get you in for an interview. We meet every month on the third Tuesday of the month. This month, I believe, because there's a conflicting meetup in Tyson's, we're planning on moving it to at the beginning of the month. So I think starting May or June, we might move it up to the first or second week of the month. And we like to vary the topics, so if you have suggestions on topics that you'd like to see more of, around government agility or around teams or around technical topics, please let me know, and we'd like to speak of a wide variety of topics. Today we have Chris Lee is here to provide his workshop. I met Chris Lee at the Agile DC conference a couple of years ago, and I kind of stop and say hi to him every year when I see him there. He's been working in the industry for the past 20 years, and he specializes in training, but also in enterprise agility in terms of helping organizations and coaching them through transformations. And he's been a local in this area all his life, and he's been working in the industry for a long time. He has a lot of wisdom to share in this area. And if you don't know anything about his training classes, everyone I've spoken to who has had any exposure to his training say he's the best. So check that out. He's got some information for you there, but you'll get a nice demonstration of it today. And I asked him to come here today because I kind of told him that there was a lot of interest in the community, and especially at REI, of people who didn't really know what being a Scrum Master was all about. What did a Scrum Master do all day? And a lot of people actually asking, like, is a Scrum Master something that I can do well? People that had nothing to do with software development or project management, that actually realized, like, hey, when they got exposed to actually seeing a Scrum Master in action, they thought to themselves, hey, maybe I can do this better than most people. And so I asked him to come out and create an audience and hold space for people that have those kind of aspirations. And then one last announcement: you can claim credit if you have certifications from Scrum Alliance. From most of the Agile certification bodies, you can claim credit for this class. And I kind of started realizing not enough people are claiming the credits. And so don't forget, you can claim PDUs, SCUs, all the educational units for all the educational bodies that count. So don't forget to claim those. And without further ado, I give you over to Chris. Let's give him a hand.
Pizza units, I'm gonna tell you that. Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Did everybody get enough to eat? Yes? No? Maybe so? I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how funny I am if the food's bad. It doesn't matter. There was a time when I was teaching a class and somebody had actually stolen our lunch. Like we start things off, and you may work in some facilities like that where it's like, oh, if the food is out, it's fair game. You know, it's like the food's just out, like, oh yeah, cool. And then just tray of sandwich, just won't walk it off. And we got to it, I was like, And so I had to give one of my coworkers, I was like, here's my card, go down. And if you ever have to get pizza, I was telling Matthias, if you ever have to order pizza, here's the secret sauce. Don't ask. You order cheese, you order pepperoni, you order 1, maybe 2 vegetarian, that's it. You don't order that funky pizza that nobody else wants to eat. You don't be like, oh, we gotta get this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, maybe one person will eat half a piece, and then it's gone. So just cheese, pepperoni, one vegetarian. Let me go ahead and get this going. And thank you guys for braving the traffic. How was it coming up tonight? Pretty bad?
Spring break.
Spring break. It might be good on the highway, but it is Mad Max inside the grocery store right now. It is really, really bad. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going through a number of interesting things that I want to go ahead and share with you. Thank you, like I said, so much for coming out. This is a talk that students of mine had asked me to write over time, and I've written this for a couple people like in mind. Sometimes you're in this position where maybe the organization's just trying this out, and they're like, but this stuff that you're doing, it's not really real work. Can you do this other stuff as well? And then there's other people who are like, I got this stuff licked. It can't be, I can do all this other stuff as well. But to get both sides of the coin thinking, that's what I wanted to share with you, and also give you some takeaways that when you leave me, you can try some of this stuff outside of the context of this room and back in your organization. A little bit about me. This isn't your only chance to interact with me. I'll be sticking around a little bit after to talk some more. If you needed to reach out to me via email, Twitter, LinkedIn, those are the only ones I really keep in the public eye. Feel free to reach out. Some people like to see the big alphabet soup of names. I don't know if you work in any environments. I used to, where the size of your signature block almost dictated things, and you see alphabet soup afterwards. I took all that off. I had a student once that was like, show me your credentials. I was like, all right, fine. If you wanted to ask me any questions later on about the different governing bodies that I volunteer with, program teams with, I'll be more than willing to go ahead and fill those in. There's so many wonderful places and people you can meet, interact with, that are doing great and wonderful things. And if I can point you to any of my friends that go ahead and do this, I'd love to do that. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about what we do, at Sparkplug Agility, we focus in on some very, very key things. The majority of our efforts are centered around high-class training, specifically in the advanced tracks. People are like, hey, I want to kind of take the next step. We also mix in a number of coaching and consulting engagements, but most of the time when people pick up the phone, they say, we want the show. If you've ever or considered going to, or you go to one of those certified Scrum Masters, certified Scrum Product Owner classes, those are some of the things that we offer, but most of the strategic direction of the firm lately has been on the advanced classes that come after that. I can answer some questions about that probably better than most people. I'm on the program team with Scrum Alliance that helps to evangelize and grow the instructors to do that. So enough about me. I want to go ahead and just make sure you know something. Who's been to a meetup before, like tonight? Anybody ever been to one of these? You ever had one of those situations where someone in the back goes, excuse me, well, you got a second? And then it just kind of goes sideways. You've done that. Everybody else goes Facebook and Twitter. This isn't going to be like that tonight. If you would like to stick around and ask any kind of questions, interact with me, anything like that, I'll be sticking around afterwards. This train moves pretty fast. Was it like life moves pretty fast? You don't look around once in a while? You could miss it, Ferris Bueller style. That's one of those. So I just wanted to let you know about those. It's not really one of those, it's more one of those, let's go ahead and get to it. And we're going to get to it right now by thinking about exactly what Matthias was nice enough to mention earlier. What exactly is a Scrum Master and what do they do? If you know a Scrum Master, you are a Scrum Master. You've gone to a new job and they say, guess what you're doing today? Sometimes there's a little bit of a bait and switch after you take a new job and it's like, wow, what is all this stuff we have to do? That exists. Have you ever felt that way? A couple of you are like, yeah, I run into this all the time. Or maybe they put a job description in front of you and it says Scrum Master, and then you read it, it doesn't feel like it at all. Or they give you a real thick job description, and then on day one they go, by the way, you're gonna do this other stuff as well, and then they say, here's the second page, and you're underwater. And that, I get that question a lot from either students or clients that come on in, so this is what I'll need you to do. Please stand up. Now, you don't have to touch anybody you don't want to in class. Whenever I work with people, so you're going to hear me say, give your partner a handshake, a fist bump, a high five, or a wave. You're going to turn to your left or to your right and give somebody next to you a handshake, a fist bump, high five, or a wave. How you doing? How you doing? What I'd like you to do is this. I would like you to have a one-on-one conversation with that person. Well, everybody's cool too, but turn it to your left or to your right. Notice how you're at tables of 4. You got 2 pairs. I want you to have a one-on-one conversation with your partner, and I want you to explore, hey, do you think being a Scrum Master is a full-time job? Take 2 minutes. Off you go. Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. This is what we're going to be doing. You might have talked to someone and they're like, no way. Other people will be like, absolutely, or maybe somewhere in the middle. And that's okay. We're going to explore that. This is what I'll need you to do. You may have noticed there's a whole bunch of stuff on your table. You notice how I left some stuff for you? What I need you to do is I need you to grab the pen and grab the handout that says Scrum Master, a full-time job. Question mark looks a little bit like this. Hold up that handout so I can see it like that. Put that pen up in the air. Let me take a look, take a look, take a look. All right, put them down, put them down. We're going to be using these in a little bit of guessing game. What you're going to be doing is doing a little bit of writing, a little bit of sharing. A little bit of writing, a little bit of sharing. Then we're going to circle back on some of those guesses. The first thing we're going to be talking about, and you're going to be making some guesses on, is this. Part of being a Scrum Master is to be a facilitator. Being a facilitator is creating a space for people to do their best thinking, interacting with one another and solving complex problems as a group. It's certainly not being the asker of 3 questions. That's not how I want you to think of it. But to go ahead and facilitate in these different events, some of these may look familiar to you if you've used Scrum before. One of the events in Scrum is called Backlog Refinement. This is the place where we're getting to a state of mutual understanding on a per backlog item level basis. A lot of fun conversations happening here, and this activity is something that happens throughout the course of a sprint. Another thing that would happen is very, very important. These are all very important. Is called sprint planning. The team comes together. The whole Scrum team comes together, and they're going to collaborate on 2 very important conversations, the what and the how. Our sprint goal, what is it we're trying to get done this sprint? What's the reason for us to come in? And what's our short-range detailed plan, our sufficiently detailed plan to make that thing of use at the end of the sprint? We're going to do that in sprint planning. Another conversation that happens throughout the course of a sprint is called the daily scrum. Some of you have probably heard of this before. People are like, oh, we get together every day, and we call it a bunch of different things. I've heard it called everything from Bill's planning meeting to daily stand-up to who knows whatever. And they'll put a whole bunch of labels on it, but for this exercise, I'm gonna actually call it what it is, the daily scrum. A short alignment discussion where the development team has a conversation with one another that says, hey, how are we doing? Moving the ball forward. What can we do to help each other out? What's maybe in our way to make, that's not letting us make that thing of use? Another conversation that would happen is called the sprint review. Especially in this town, it takes a very interesting turn. You ever been in one of those, you know, we're gonna do a demo with a little bit of Q&A if there's time. You among friends, if that's what you've seen before. The intent of this conversation, as it's really intended, is to center around getting some feedback on this thing of use that we've built, this useful increment, the sum of all the items that we've built. We also have another conversation called a Sprint Retrospective. This has a different feel to it. Some people like to mix them all together. You want to keep them separate because the intent here is centered all about improvement. What can we do as a team to work together? How do we do a little bit better as team members? But all these things together, it's funny. How many times have you gotten ready for a meeting either like that or something else and you had a little bit of pre-work and trying to get your head in the game? Or maybe you do the huddle up before. Hey, can we meet at the water cooler? And just before we go in, let's brief it up. Or you stick around a little bit afterwards, like the debrief. Hey, let's go for a walk. You ever done something like that? It takes some time. I'm going to call that event overhead for right now. So this is what I need you to do. On that sheet, there's part 1. What we're going to do is we're going to be doing in some guesses. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to think, imagine if you had a 2-week sprint. This is the sprint like most people are useful. They're, oh yeah, it's that. they're not just 2 weeks, it's 1 month or less. But for this example, let's just think about 2 weeks. You're thinking about 2 weeks. Imagine if you're a Scrum Master, and let's say, I have to go ahead and spend some time facilitating, helping my team out. What I want you to do is take 1 minute, and on your own, what you're gonna do is write down a little estimate about how long you think you would spend on those things, and I want you to keep it to yourself. Take 1 minute, off you go. Minutes, you can put it in hours. Probably one of those two. You can put it in slices of pizza, but I'd rather put you in minutes than hours. You can tell I'm hungry. What do you say? Grab those sheets and please stand up. Grab those sheets and please stand up. If earlier when you were having that conversation you turned to your left, what I want you to do now is turn to your right. Give that person a little fist bump, handshake, high five, or wave. How you doing? I want you to take 1 minute, and in 1 minute, I'd like you to share what you put down for your guesses or your estimates. Take 1 minute. Off you go.
Okay, for backlog. Let's just do it together like that. We have an hour and a half.
And I used to do them
Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Sometimes the guesses are spot on. Sometimes the guesses are in a whole nother zip code. Sometimes it's kind of in the middle. Did you find that? Whose were dead on? Anybody match up exactly? Couple? Who had it a little bit further apart? Who didn't match exactly? That's okay. Who was way apart? Anybody way apart? Some people like Chris just talking. It's a joke. That's a problem. We can do that too. Well, what we're going to do is that was part one. We're going to talk a little bit of part two now because you want to know what? You've got a lot of responsibilities you've got to do as a Scrum Master. Some of the things you'll have to do is maybe outside of that retrospective, everybody hopefully will leave with what's something we can do to help the team rise. When we would leave, if I was a product owner, Scrum Master, development team member, we would always try to leave with what's something that we can do to help things out. But also, what are some of those things that we can clear out of the way? You'll hear impediments. A very close friend of mine has a funny video when he says, that's not an impediment. We joke about that a lot. But anytime I hear the word impediment, I think of something that's preventing us towards meeting that sprint goal. We can't action something, a part of our sprint backlog, our short-range detailed plan. There's something in our way. Not necessarily, traffic's really bad today, it could get driving. Not necessarily something like that. Distractions can happen, and that's a real thing. You ever have somebody in your organization just likes to fly by and talk at you when you're just trying to get some work done? Maybe blocking for things like that. Maybe some team coaching. People on your Scrum team might come to you and say, hey, we're having trouble getting our heads around what is this activity, what's a way we can do that, can you help us a little bit? You might have to spend some time, maybe with 2 or 3 of them, and you want to know what? Somebody else out there needs your time too. Your product owner is somebody that you're riding together. Your partner. You're trying to make some things happen. With my product owner, back in the day, when I was working as a Scrum Master, some of my best product owners, I would start and end my day with my product owner. We would talk a whole bunch of times. You might have to sit with them and help them out at times. But some other things that may or may not have been on your radar, so this is what I would like you to do. This is round 2. Again, think of a 2-week sprint. What I want you to do is take 1 minute on your own for part 2. Go ahead and get your guesses down about how long you would spend as a Scrum Master doing that. Take 1 minute on your own. For this next round of guesses, I need you to grab that piece of paper. Please stand up. If you turn to your left or turn to your right the first time, maybe look across. Give that person a little fist bump handshake, high five, or wave. I want you to take 1 minute and share your guesses for this part. Take 1 minute. Off you go.
1 hour. I know. And 30. Right now I'm only 30. We have a super small team. This is really what 2 hours. I like it for 2 hours. Yeah. And then this one is also what it's nice. My DevOps team is like, they have a lot of super impediments, but my other team is like, I don't want to do anything for them, so.
I'm only guessing what I think.
I'm struggling to motivate myself because I have somebody who needs nothing, who doesn't know what to do, and I have other people who can ask them a million times, and they just don't do it. It's like, how do you just make that person
Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Again, some of these guesses match, some of them are off, some of them are crisp. We don't know anything. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Well, we're going to go a little bit around 3 teams. We're going to do a little bit around 3. As you can tell, this wasn't one of those just sit back and hang out type of deals. No, it's going to keep going like this. What I want to do is do a 3rd round because there's time that we have to spend not only on ourselves, but the organization as well. Think about the amount of time you might spend on professional development, learning a new technique, following up on a blog post, checking out a podcast, something that you're going ahead and adding to your toolbox. We spend time doing that. Also, think about any kind of organizational transformation activities, centers of excellence, maybe some internal training. You might do some of that too. You might do some of it right now. You might do a whole lot of it right now. You also might have to eat. Sometimes people are like, I don't have to eat. Trust me, you have to eat. And I'd rather you not call my bluff on this one, but if you do not eat, you will expire. Trust me, you will. Some people are like, I don't need to eat. Trust me, you need to eat. You also need to get around. You gotta walk from place to place and thing to thing, door to desk. You gotta do that. And there's something else that not everyone considers, the hidden killer. Context switching. You ever opened up your inbox and you see those 8 emails with like read receipts and all that, and you're doing this and you got a couple voicemails and all that, you're switching between like 6 threads? Just switching, getting your head in the game between 3 things. It's gonna take some energy, it's gonna take brain space, it's gonna take time. It's the hidden killer not everyone thinks about. Here's some other things I wanted to put on your radar you may or may not have considered, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead again. Think about 2-week sprint, and think about part 3. Take 1 minute, put that next round of guesses under those part 3 pieces. You're gonna be doing some sharing in just a minute. Take 1 minute on your own and take a guess how long you spend during the 2-week sprint. think you know what's coming at this point. Please grab those guesses, stand on them. You can talk to whoever you want. Take 1 minute and share your guesses. 1 minute.
What's really funny when he was talking about context, because I realized,
So I think it's really
it takes longer than it takes to think. I was thinking, okay, if I switch contexts 3 times a day, it takes about 15 minutes to get into everything. That's roughly 45 minutes to an hour a day. I work with 2 teams, but then everybody else in the company is also emailing you about this, that, and the other. I don't know what to say. You're always like, responding back to everyone and your boss. Give you something to play, news, whatever. Yeah,
Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you. As you can probably tell, sometimes we guess right on the nose, sometimes it's a little bit off. Sometimes it's in another zip code, and that's okay. Because depending on the environment you've been put in and what someone's asked of you, it might be a little bit off, and that's okay. You might be put in a situation where you're in an organization that maybe doesn't share the same understanding of what it means to be a Scrum Master, or Scrum as a whole. That might not be your fault. But what I want you to do is think about a couple things. What I'm going to do is I've got a couple of presents for you. Here's the first present. For this example, where I'm going to walk through some things, I'm going to actually break it down for you. For this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a sample schedule of a 2-week sprint. 10 business days where they drop the green flag on a Wednesday, and they finish things all up on a Tuesday. Chris, that's not how we do it? No kidding, especially in this area. It's fine. Whatever you're doing is fine. It's fine. This is the example I'm going to use that I'm going to break some things down. Remember how we talked about sprint events before? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and show you a little table like this. Remember how I mentioned backlog refinement? This is where we're getting to that place of mutual understanding. Teams should expect to spend up to 10% of their time working together, getting to a place of mutual understanding on a per backlog item level basis. Sometimes people put a whole lot of activities in there that they don't. And that's where we go ahead and start to lose some time. But about 10% of time, so I'm going to go ahead and put a couple minutes here for you. I've already done the math for you. Then there's this, sprint planning. You are time boxed to a maximum of 8 hours for a 4-week sprint. That's the longest you should be in sprint planning. If your sprint length is shorter, then it's going to be shorter as well. I like to use a rule of thumb of about 2 hours for every week of sprint length. This is a 2-week sprint, so we're going to go ahead and put some minutes right there for you. Start to add. But guess what also we have to worry about? That daily scrum. Everyone gets wrapped up about that daily scrum. Everyone knows 15 minutes, but you want to know what? A lot of people like to take a little bit extra time. While we're here, let's do this. For this exercise though, we're going to leave it at 15. Spread some things out, start to add up. What else do we have to do? That's sprint review. Your time box to 4 hours for a 4-week sprint. The rule of thumb that I like to use, hey folks, you want to consider about 1 hour for every week of sprint length. This is where we center in on getting some feedback on that useful increment. For those of you who are writing furiously, fret not. I got something fun for you here in a second. And you also have to think about that sprint retrospective. Your time box to 3 hours for a 4-week sprint. This is where we as a Scrum team come together and say, hey, how can we get better as a team? From a process standpoint, what are some of the adjustments we can make? How can we do better? How can we do better? But remember how I mentioned that overhead? Imagine if I tacked on 15 minutes before and after. People are like, oh, we don't take that long. Run the meter next time you do it. You'll see how long you're at the water cooler. I'm going to be generous and put it like that. Chris, what does that all add up to? It adds up to about this. That's a decent amount of time for 2 weeks, isn't it? Decent amount of time. Chris, we spend more on that. We spend less on that. This is giving you an example to think about. That's just one part of it, because remember, you did 3 rounds of guesses, right? This is what I want you to do. Now that I've put this in front of you, I want you to take 30 seconds on your own. And you notice how I have a little bit of notes? What I want you to do is make any adjustments you're thinking of, or write down any thoughts you have just in those little squares right there. Take 30 seconds on your own. I'll give you a chance to share in a little bit. Just put a couple notes down. Things maybe that you didn't consider. 30 seconds. those notes handy. Keep those notes handy. You're not going to share just yet because I got to talk a little bit about some of those responsibilities we talked about earlier. I'm going to put those on a table like that. Remember how I told you about retrospective actions? Something we could do maybe to help other people out? Imagine if I was generous and said, you know what, 15 minutes a day. Smoothing things out for people. 15 minutes a day. What's something else we need to do? You might have to go ahead and get things, you know, people raise their hand. You ever have one of those days where everything is like on fire? Everyone needs some of your time. You ever have days like that? Those are tough days. Other days no one calls you and it's just cream cheese. That's fine. That's fine. I'm going to average it out to imagine if 4 people raised their hand and said, hey, I need a bit of your help. They might need about 30 minutes each, which adds up quite a bit. Let me go ahead and put some time there. You can see we're starting to get a little short on time. You might have to shield from distractions. There was a group a couple firms ago, we actually called them the Got a Minute Gang. And the Got a Minute Gang was a group of people that would walk around and talk about anything else other than the work we're trying to do. Someone will come out and be like, oh, hey, did you see the game the other night? Yeah, I know. That's need to go ahead and get together. Hey, you got a minute? I was just wondering, what else? Dude, do you want to go to the game with me the other night? And you just get run down by that? You know somebody like that? You probably do. We try to go ahead and tell people, you're trying to block for some of that. Imagine if that took about 15 minutes a day. This is starting to add up. Your team members might raise their hand and say, hey, could maybe you show us another technique we can approach this? We need a little bit of help here. What are some other ways we can have these types of discussions? Maybe 2 people raise their hand, 30 minutes a day. And you know that product owner, that person we're riding with, they might need some of your time too. I'm even going to shoot low on this one and say, what if they just needed half an hour of your time every single day to help out? Mine, it might have been a lot higher for you. Maybe you're like, Chris, we don't even know who our product owner is. That's okay too, that's another problem you might run into. I'm going to go ahead and put some time here. What does that add all up to? It adds up to that. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take 30 seconds. Let that soak in. Get down a couple notes and adjustments next to part 2. Take 30 seconds on your own. Get a couple notes down. Guesses? Let's take a look at that 3rd round of guesses. Remember development actions? You might actually have to spend time on yourself, reading that blog post, checking out that podcast. What if I'm nice and say 15 minutes a day? Chris, that doesn't sound like a lot. Yeah, no kidding. But imagine if it was just 15 minutes a day. What about spending time on the organization? Actually getting together with other people within the organization, what does Scrum look like? Maybe doing some Center of Excellence thing, Greg's book club we had, any kind of training activities, those kind of things. What if it was just 15 minutes a day then? Wow, seems like it's going away. But you know what? You gotta eat. You gotta get coffee. I don't know about you, but you gotta eat. People are like, I don't want to eat. No, you need to eat. I'm gonna be nice and say 45 minutes a day. We'll put that. But you have to walk around. You have to get from place to place. I'm gonna be generous and say, you know what about 15 minutes? That's to get to all your meetings from door to desk, all that jazz. We'll put that there. In one installation that I worked in, a wonderful 5-sided building down by the water, it took me 28 minutes from door to desk. I had to scan through 4 different things. It's like, beep, yeah, beep, good thing I had a good Walkman. I don't have Walkman. Good thing I had a good iPod. So going ahead and moving around. But context switching, I'm going to say that's that hidden time, that hidden killer. What if I put 45 minutes a day on that? What does that add up to? It adds up to that. And if it's only that for you, boy, you're lucky. I want you to take a look at that, think about it, get some thoughts down. Take 30 seconds on your own to make any adjustments, write down any notes. As you can see, it adds up pretty quickly. It adds up pretty quickly. Well, what does it all add up to? What if I go ahead and put it all in front of you at once? Wall of numbers crits you for 9,000. What does it add up to? It adds up to that. Chris, can you just do the simple math? Absolutely, I can do the simple math for you. It adds up to 510 minutes or 8.5 hours a day. You know what you don't see up there? All that real work you're being asked to do. Tool administration, writing code, Writing job descriptions, hiring people, firing people, doing the potluck, all that. Fret not, this shield right here, I've got a present coming for you here in just a little bit, because I'm actually going to show you where you can get this picture here in a little bit. People are like, I got you. There's a present coming. But think about that. 8.5 hours a day. And you know what also? That's for one team. If you're in a situation where someone's like, oh, I'm going to wear this as a badge of honor, I scrum 8 teams. I say, I'm sorry, how's that working out for you? Because someone might be asking you to do too much. This is what I'd like you to do now that I've put that up. I need you to go ahead and grab your guesses and please stand up. I want you to turn to anybody who you want. Give them a fist bump, handshake, high five, or a wave. I want you to take 2 minutes and share what adjustments you made and what notes you wrote down. Take 2 minutes, off you go.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Everything we said is true. All the stuff that's not published. And you don't do anything. Take your backlogs.
There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of trying to help us come together. So that's like something I started with a lot more time on. Yeah. I was like, normally I'm just like eating at my desk and really have eating at my desk. Team lunches and we all lunch outside of all the work. So I think, that was like 6 hours.
Both my days are pretty dynamic. Now and in the past, I've tried to keep myself a little bit more consistent and function. One just straight out said that she doesn't believe in Agile. And that's the point of all this stuff. So, how do you I agree that we're supposed to be again and again, we try to like resisting and that,
Thank your partner for their time and have a seat. Have a seat. This particular shield, because at the end of the day, what this is a shield. It gives you something to have a conversation with about. And I've got a present for you later on. It's one of several. One of several. But what I want to do is I want to talk about being a Scrum Master. So much of it has to deal with what mindset you use and you approach the job with. I like to talk about Scrum Mastery coming from a very selfless place. Because I say your number one job, a friend of mine's like, number one job is to work yourself out of a job. I say, no. I like to approach it like this. Your number one job is to create an environment for other people to be successful. What can I do to make sure that you win? That's how I approach things. I don't need a spotlight, I don't need a stage. Whatever I can do to make sure that you win, I want other people clapping for you. That's my approach towards Scrum Mastery, and that's what the approach I hope all the folks I work with. But depending on where you're coming from, you might be thinking a little bit differently. And I want to put a couple of these different mindsets out. You might have that overworked mindset. And when I run into Scrum Masters like this, you probably will see someone you know, and if this is you, hopefully that this was helpful, because this is the person that says, you know what, I'm gonna add a whole bunch of stuff that's not needed. Okay, the bar is really, really low. Handful of conversations with a handful of people, using a lightweight set of artifacts to make something of use, to impact lives in a positive way. Let's figure out what to do a little bit better, do it again. The end. As soon as we start layering a whole bunch of other things on, that's where it gets crazy. This is where we start to go ahead and create a whole bunch of other non-Scrum artifacts, the weekly status report, and other things. I'm going to go ahead and twitch a little bit. Some things I had to do back in the day. Some of that. Management actions. Ever had to write hey, you get to go do some interviewing. You got to go write some job descriptions. You got to go ahead and fire somebody. You got to do performance reviews. I don't know what your cycle is, but you ever get a lot. You have to do a whole bunch of reviews like right before you go on vacation or on vacation. That takes time. Additional meetings. In addition to all the things you have to do, oh, we also have to go to Bill's planning meeting and then the afternoon catch up. And you know we have to sales. That's when we start to get busy. Tool administration. Not even going to mention anything in there, but you know what? That takes time. The writer of user stories. Your product owner says, I don't have enough time. Can you just help me out? Or you know what? You just take it on yourself. Maybe you're wearing multiple hats. I have to do X, I have to do Y, I have to do Z. This is the type of person, if you have this mindset, regardless of if you chose it or not, a lot of times, sometimes people will sign up for it. This is the person who's doing too much and focuses their energy often in the wrong places. Often in the wrong places. I'm gonna flip it a little bit. These are the people, it's a snap. This stuff is simple. These are the people who have a little bit more of a hands-off approach. Oh, I'm a Scrum Master, but I'm very hands-off. This is the person, I'm just a note-taker. I am just the asker of 3 questions. I'm the keeper of the meeting invites. And some people really relish in that. Or, flip it, it's the person who says, hey, you know what, aren't you just a party planner? I had a student come to me and they said, my team told me that all I was an event coordinator. And they were like, and I was like, I wish I could go yell at somebody for you. I was like, no, but that's what the position sometimes you might be in. This is the person, if they're just doing the lowest thing they can, this is the person that prefers real work. I don't have time for this other stuff. I want to do real work. This is someone, they might be a team member, and they just ask to do it. They're the ones that actually have a day job, because I got this real work I need to do. This is the person who doesn't do enough and would prefer to spend their time and energy somewhere else. You might know someone like this, specifically a Scrum Master, and you know what? You also got that superstar out there. You know the person that says, I've been doing this a really long time. I was Agile before it was called Agile. You've seen it, you're running into some of that. These are those folks that say, you know what, I've got this licked. There's no way it takes that a long time, Chris. I was able to get out of sprint planning in 5 minutes. Aren't you proud of me? I had a student do that to me. A good friend of mine, I was like, okay, whatever works for you, man. They don't need me. I've worked myself out of a job. Team oversight, I don't even need to be there. I'm just setting a couple things up. But we have our certifications. I run into a lot of people, they say, oh, but I'm a certified blank, whatever badge you want to use. And they use that as a badge. They say, you know what, I sat in a room for 2 days. I sat in a room 2 days for somebody, and this gives me the right to go ahead and get in your shorts that you need to go ahead and stand over there and say these 3 things this way. What? Boy, we're pragmatic. We work in the real world. We all work in the real world. When I see people say we're pragmatic, you know what that word is for? Lazy. Straight up, lazy. I'm gonna be real honest with you. A lot of times it's like, oh, yeah, lazy. But we're done. We have nothing else to do. We don't even do retrospectives because we've gotten there. We don't have to do it anymore because we're perfect. This is the person that has forgotten that, you know what, there's always more to learn, and they aren't thinking beyond just that checklist of things to do. You might know one or more of these people, and I wanted to give you this talk as well as some things to go ahead and take back to go ahead and change some of those mindsets. So this is what I need you to do. You have a seat, right? Let me see a pen. Put that pen up here. Let me see. We're going to hand out another little handout right now. There's a handout coming up. And I want you to grab 1 each.
1 each.
Grab 1 each. 1 each, you'll have some extras, and that's on purpose. Here. Grab 1 each. 1 each. Everybody got? You guys got some? Over there? All right. So 1 each. This one should say job description on top. You see that? Here's what we're going to be doing. As I went ahead and went back a couple things. Here is something that I would like to give you. And what this is a particular activity around a job description. This is something that you can try when you get back to your organizations. I want you to imagine a setup like this, where you have a bunch of rooms and you ask everyone, please put away all your electronics. Put away your laptops because they're going to be doing it from memory. That's what the activity is. You do it from memory, and you say, hey, here's some blank pieces of paper, and some pens, markers, something to write with. That's the start. And then what you do is you do a silent solo round. Round 1, and you say, hey, what does a job description look like for a Scrum Master? And you give them a couple different things to think about. You give everybody in the room has their own. We're going to do some of this activity coming up here in a bit. That silent solo round. And then you spend some time actually sharing, hey, this is what I came up with. What did you come up with? And you do some comparison. What were the common elements? What were the deltas? Oh, I thought this. Oh, well, I thought this. Oh, we're together on this. And you have some discussion, and then guess what you do? You find another pair of partners. Imagine that. You guys you're in groups of 4. It's almost like it worked out. Then you compare again. And you say, hey, let's go ahead and create as a group this This lets you then, as groups of 4, share out, this is what we came up with, using the elements of, hey, this is where we were in the same thinking, and you know what, this is where we were off. Chris, that's a lot of steps. That's a lot to remember. I know we're going to practice it, but how can I remember? Present number 1, you remember the full-time job guesses? Turn it over. Step by step, down to the minute, what you can do to go ahead and use this workshop we're about to do part of when you get back home. And you can do this with any role you want. You can do this with product owner, you can do it with UX person, you can do it with a CrossFit coach. Anything that you want. So this is what I want you to do. We're doing solo round first. I need you to make sure you have the job description sheet. You see the job description sheet like that? This is what we're going to be doing. This is solo round. This is going to be on your own. What you're going to be doing is you have that handout, and you're on your own. The form has 7 sections. You see how there's title and 6 other boxes? Well, guess what? This round, you're going to have 7 minutes. 7 minutes on your own, and what you're going to do is I don't want you to overthink it. Don't overthink it. And what I want you to do is I want you to make sure you have at least something in every box. Some of them are like, oh, 3 to 4, give me something in every box. I would rather have 1 in every box than 6 in one. I'm going to run the clock for 7 minutes. Just get a little something down, and then we're going to be doing a bit of sharing. Take 7 minutes on your own, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background music. Just a little bit of background music. Because who wants to hear HVAC and chewing? Right. Here we go. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. Bless you. Bless you again. few minutes left. Something in each box. About 2 minutes. One minute. Put the finishing touches on what you have down. Give it another read. Make sure you got everything down that you think you can put down in each box. Don't worry, we're not going to go do laps around the building or anything like that to share. You're just going to stay seated. This is what I'll need you to do. Be able to get something down in each box. Something down? Don't worry about standing up, but I do want you to turn to your left or your right, where you're working with the person next to you. Give them a fist bump, handshake, high five, or a wave. Just to the person right next to you. How you doing? How you doing? This is what I would like you to do. Take a look at the screen. Take a look at the screen. This is what you're going to do. You're going to be working with that partner. You're going to be working with that partner at your table. So if you turn left or right, you've got 2 and 2. That's what you'll be doing. What you're going to be doing is you are not going to be creating anything yet. That's coming. You're not creating anything yet. This is going to be where you are going to compare what you came up with. This is what I came up with. What did you come up with? I want you to identify where did we match 2 years of this, or this certification, and I want you to identify where you weren't on the same page. Chances are there might be a few of those. That's okay. I want you to use this time to compare. I don't want you to worry about, let's create a new one, because if you'll get a shot to do that in a second. I would like you to take 4 minutes, and I'll give you 5. Compare what you came up with, but I want you to say, hey, same page here, different page here. Off you go, 5 minutes.
No idea what Scrum is and what it is.
So we have to have the spaces that closely I just look forward to what you're saying.
I went for something to drink because I was so thirsty. I saw
All right, thank you. You don't have to thank your partner for their time just yet, because you're going to be staying with them to do the next part. What you're going to do is this: it's time to team up. It's time to team up. You and your partner, the one that you were just talking to, you're going to stay together. What I need you to do is you and your partner is grab a fresh job description sheet. Each pair is going to have one. There should be one left. Each pair has a new one. You got a new one now? This is what I'd like you to do. Take a look at the screen. It's going to be the same 7 sections. Everyone has a fresh one? Got a fresh one? Anybody need another fresh one? Okay.
The best of both worlds.
Take a look at this, folks. Eyes on the screen. It's the same 7 sections, but I'm going to give you a couple more minutes. I'm actually going to give you 10. And in 10 minutes, what I want you to do is, I don't want you to overthink it. Don't overthink it. And I want you to use those common items that you and your partner just identified. Oh, we were close on this. Or we were on the same. We would put that. Let's say a few of you are like 1 year experience and like 3 years experience. Maybe compromise and go in the middle and say 2 years experience. That's okay. But I want you to work together to go ahead and try this again. Putting your heads together. 10 minutes, 7 sections, working together. Off you go.
I knew you were that. I like this. Strategic vision. Yeah, I really think that's and we all the ability to communicate between teams.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay. So, what do you want to put first here?
There you go. See?
It was like a last minute sneak-in, you know?
Fine with whatever way I want that.
Sometimes it helps if you both write. Maybe slide that piece of paper back and forth. Slide that piece of paper back and forth. You can totally do that. Plenty of
I think it's like strategic
Probably insurance that
Yeah, facilitate communications between because there's a whole lot of teams with companies and you get a lot of dependent work. So you want to give help teams have success with their dependencies. It's about
Lonnie, get your slide back and forth so we both go ahead and write. I write you write it.
Alright, so collaborate. Organize. Oh yes.
Delivering value to the customer.
Is more of like a race field.
Yeah. He goes in. Traits, fortitude, ability to sell. I love that one.
Oh yeah.
Take turns writing, folks. Take turns writing.
Oh yeah. So let's say unless you're left quick change and adapt. I think you like questioning. responsibility is so
Just make it short. Have a degree. I don't know. Business.
Yeah. Very broad.
It could be in any industry, really. They use Agile and everything. It doesn't have to be
So just say college degree.
I think experience in the industry is good. Because like, if I went from
Say like Microsoft. I like your style. Well, and I think you have to have a what do you guys
experience in the industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 minutes, 4 minutes to get that sheet filled out. 4 minutes.
Okay, we have 2 minutes here to use it. 4 to 6 skills per person. I'm sorry, was that your foot? I just, okay, 4 to 6 skills per person.
Even coaching.
Leadership.
Or just knowledge.
And great soft skills.
I guess that's open-minded, so. I guess we've already said that somewhere else.
That's okay, because,
And then I think they for stage. Strategic vision, I think. Sales actually have certified.
what
3 minutes. See what else you can add to it. 3 minutes.
Here again, I think we have to have some kind of experience.
Go there and start certificates. They have
5 years again?
So that's
Just experience in industry.
Yeah, you know, 3 to 5 years.
I don't know anybody who was like who would like know this.
No, unless they are really, I can't imagine my 22-year-old daughter. I can't imagine my 22-year-old daughter the way that I can't imagine having a child.
Right, and so I've got a son who's 23, and a daughter who's 19. I said that they have very strong opinions. I can't sure I feel like respect.
A knowledge of
if you are actually using those certifications, using the skills.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I feel like it does.
So basically, we didn't agree with
And I'm still trying to get rid of it. Like, they think it's starting to read this.
that's the experience.
Really what kind of they listen, how do they manipulate? They were very good. That really started building communication.
I guess 5 years of experience. Really?
That's true. I've only been at my job for 7 days. So
1 minute. Finishing touches. 1 minute.
Okay.
But I didn't say that one. And he said, that's my thought.
Yeah, because coaching also involves people skills. And Scrum Master to deal with.
I wanted to just keep up all these things.
into a position where I had an instance.
Oh, I mean, I just think it's something that doesn't have to be in the
The thing is, it's almost like contract.
All right, thank you. What I would like you to do, you and your partner just worked on a new sheet. I need you to put a big star on top of it so you don't lose it. Put a star on top of the one that's combined. Some kind of mark that you know is the combined one. Give me a thumbs up when you got that combined one mark. Got it?
Yeah.
Got it, got it, got it. Now in each little pod, guess what you have? You have 2 ones with a star. What are the chances that some of those things match? And some of those are different. I would like you to take 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, I want both pairs to share the ones. You mind let me jump in there real quick? We've got 2 with some stars. I want you to talk about the common elements and the differences. And don't worry about creating, because that's the big finish. Take 4 minutes to share the ones with the stars and talk it out. Here we go, 4 minutes.
Yeah, one by one. I only have 4 minutes, we'll never make it.
Or we can put them side by side, we can stand over there and look at them over your shoulders.
Yeah, we can. I was thinking we could just so much easier the other.
And they were sets, we just had this. So, certain leadership,
Yes, we have that too. So what was your first one?
Oh, okay.
That is just your definition. You just went through training.
Yeah.
In November.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also I was applying for
Sure, sure.
Oh, okay, let's go. All right, so
I forgot.
Happier and ensure continuous
Not thinking about coaching at the same time.
To differentiate the common
In software development, I'm not good.
I love it. And managing conflict, that is wonderful.
And that's because I don't have like that experience. I hate different decisions.
When I hate managing conflict,
I hate that too, and I think that's because
organized
can't be able to have the open
Okay, you should have noticed that on those 2 ones with stars, maybe some things matched. And maybe some things were a little different. Did you happen to see both of those things happen? Well, this is what you're going to do now. We're trying to get closer to what a shared understanding of what this could look like. You should have one more copy of that sheet on your table. Find that last blank piece of paper. Give me a thumbs up when you got it. Good there, good there, good there, good there. You need another one? We got an extra? I need you on that new one. Put 3 stars up at the top. 3 stars up at the top. And this is what you're going to do. I want you to work now combining those 2 1-star job descriptions. Find the common elements and put them on the 3-star. But before I start you, it's not one person writing. If I was at a group, I'd write a little bit and I'd pass it. Write a little bit, pass it. Write a little bit.
I'm gonna write the
But I want you to real quick, folks, before I cut you loose, let me ask you a question. Before I cut you loose, let me ask you a question. Did I say anything about what industry this was for?
We did have this way.
And imagine if you have 4 people from 4 different industries at a table. You think that might impact what your job descriptions look like?
Yeah.
Something to think, shouldn't, but you want to know how many times I've done this, and it does. You have 1 clean copy. You have 4 people, 4 of their own ideas, 2 combined. You're going to go ahead and put all those ideas together into one last job description. Fill in those 7 boxes, 10 minutes. Off you go. Last round. Here we go.
Okay, so job title, I guess we all agree, Scrum Master Agreement.
Oh, sorry, I'm not doing the,
So this is the one.
so it's gonna get harder and harder. You get the first round.
So what did we have? Let's do this one because it takes the whole off. It seems like it's harder. This is
You guys oversee project master, reliability and predictability.
After this, they're really looking for
Certainly it is good. I mean, I think it's a big part of it is
yes, definitely.
leadership.
It all falls under.
What about the Scrum training that we're working at Agile? Actually, this is free job is
Yeah, you can. I think just combine some of this. Yeah, just combine some of that together.
I like that. We better ensure the team reaches goals, not specific to
We have it as part of the
Speak up. So the team, so you're thinking that the team will be responsible for the summer.
events plans.
So our second sentence, being towards the transfer, the ability to
You can definitely see the different industry pieces coming out here. I mean, I'm in marketing, I deal with
Software development.
the IT teams.
and responsibilities.
Right pass, right pass, right pass, right pass. Right pass, right pass. If everyone should sit.
Improving. I think there is more about process.
Skip that one and fill it in.
Oh yeah, I mean, all that should be there.
There's something kind of in there. Okay, that's good.
So let's see.
So next we've got responsibilities. Agile ceremonies, product coach, best
So aid, PO, coaching, and we all had coaching.
The only one extra that we have is about happiness. At the team be happy. If you don't like it,
The organize, enable.
you don't like it, okay. Simple, yes, simple.
In the beginning, you facilitate their organization.
Make an effort.
Facilitate
But
organization.
yeah.
Because I mean, 3 team members would be helpful.
yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay, so. Which one? This is
What, happiness? Yeah, oh, I
My
see.
team, like, I started as a team, they were and it's like, even though it's the beginning, you don't want to start with that.
Not a Scrum Master. It's a different responsibility. The process.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay. Tracking is good. Okay, should we move on?
Well, a couple of these boxes are going to be easy and not
All
as.
right. So this one is traits.
Traits, 4 to 6 different traits. All right. So we got neutral.
I like neutral, good listener.
Has to do with the color. The Scrum Master doesn't have too much with the color. Yes.
I mean, the team is involved in products.
No, I mean, ultimately, yeah, but you know,
I like that, yeah.
that's it.
Priorities have to set in such a way that they
Yeah, so totally does
everybody's on
I like changing the dash.
Okay,
I remember being in a meeting one day and somebody said, well, what if we just don't do that at all?
So would you have to have flexibility?
Wait, want to do it? Oh, yeah, we can. And we all had like this big change of mind that we didn't even have to have that piece. And it like blew my mind.
Agile mindset.
Change and adapt, okay.
Let's do the next one.
All right.
Do this box next. The others are pretty big.
Okay. Which one is last one?
Yeah, that, do the bottom box because these two are like exactly the
Yeah,
same
they
things.
Okay.
So those kinds of reports.
what we have is train and trainer and mentor.
Oh, that's pretty much what they do.
Oh, no, I said O train.
So 5 years is more than not agree upon.
And you said Scrum Master experience.
So what we said is.
You don't have to say that, it's just what you want. 1 5 years, Scrum Master.
I would say 5 years experience in industry. I think 5 years. There's one number of experience in general, right? So 5 years experience, like, or not even. So I don't know what the ideal time is, but I do think work experience is important. The really like
Agile, yeah.
3 years, like some,
Scrum is the same everywhere.
So what I'm saying is we don't want anybody straight out of school.
Skills?
Yes, you definitely need to understand what's like. I mean, I think that there's still a lot of people's personalities, so where those skills are.
Okay, so how about updating the six
The only reason we said that was like it's really helpful to know a bit.
then you
90 seconds.
have an idea of what your team is doing and what they're talking about, and, you know. I find it.
What if I don't really
Because I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, you pick it up.
Like, you pick it up and it's in your travel report.
Yeah, it's a tool. Tool is actually either software. It can be a This pen is a tool.
But when I asked you, you didn't mention those. I try not
We settled on degree because it can
because
be
it's
for
a government
any
contractor and require like stuff. It's
be
the only reason. Otherwise, it's very
I think Rico was software.
Things I really do want to find a job. I have a degree in political science. How many job descriptions do you
There's a
ever
reason
say?
for that. Don't you?
Exactly.
I was like, yes, that's right.
It just means you can stick with something if you finally get a degree.
Yes, responsible person. I'll even
There are people who don't need that, but
that's
you get judged by that though.
So think about it. This was a bit tricky. You go on your own and you write down what you
I
think
said
it
it's
is.
optional.
You write it down. And then suddenly you put your head together with somebody else. It's like, wow, this is where we were on the same page. But wow, this is where we were a little bit different. That's just two heads. But the moment you say, hey, let's go ahead and combine it, starts to get a little bit rocky. We can't put things together. It's like, wow, this is really hard. No kidding. But then it's, hey, this is what the two of us came up with. What's the two of us that we came up with? Oh, wow, these are the different. Wow, this is different. And it's even more hard. Suddenly it says, hey, go ahead and all put it together. And you want to know what? There's a landmine in there. There's actually 7 of them. And you want to know what sometimes that landmine is? The title. Because depending on what organization you come from, it might not think about Scrum the same way you do, or what I would show you it to be. And therein lies the big lesson. Shared understanding is what makes this stuff a lot easier than what it can be. Because this is hard. This whole Scrum game is hard. What makes it hard? People and pressure. How do you relieve that pressure? You go back to the basics. The easiest way to speed up is to slow down. That's what I tell people. Slow down, go back to the basics. What's the low bar? When you start layering on a whole bunch of other things, it gets hairy. I got some presents for you. Remember how I gave you the exercise on the back of that sheet? Here are 2 other presents. There's a blog post about the Scrum Master being a full-time job. Remember all those pictures I showed you earlier and all that background? That is posted up with those pictures for you to download. I built that for you as a talking point, for you to go back to your organizations and have a conversation. I've also built another blog post for you. How we represent ourselves and the words we use say a lot about ourselves. Years ago, I received a very, very, very good resume review from a service that said, hey, you can pay us and we'll do this. I put an Agile slant on it, talking to the different hiring manager, recruiters, and people who evaluate contracts and say, are these folks basically Agile friendly? I've put a blog post together for you to think about, hey, what's going on here? Here's a little bit on that. Your email, what you say on your resume says a lot about you. Imagine if your email was tbone420@hotmail.com. What does that say? Exactly. But I had other students who had different emails that said different things, and it immediately would disqualify them before they even got to know the person. Scary stuff like that. 2 blog posts. Some of you may have noticed, Chris, what the heck is that sweatshirt you're wearing? Well, the entire racing school program of what we do is thinking of it this way. You can go to a lot of different classes out there. I like to talk about these paths as something important to me. Think about back when you got your driver's license. Remember when you got your driver's license? What was it? They checked your eyes and they said, you know, red means stop, green means go, yellow means speed up, you can make it, turn signals, you know. But you leave your CSM sitting in 2 days and they say, here are the keys to 4,000 pounds of metal. Don't hurt anybody. You're dangerous. It's like when you get your driver's license. Well, think about it. You want to get your driver's license, the CSM is where you leave with the rules of the road. You're dangerous. To take the next step, some people out in the world say, I want to go to like a weekend defensive driving contest. Some, you know, one of those learn how to drive in a parking lot, defensive driving. Well, the ACSM, the 200 level, that's where we make it good. And this builds on everything in your CSM, but taking it bigger, going into conflict resolution, advanced facilitation techniques. I even get into responding to oral proposals. That's what I do in mine. And the step after that, imagine keeping it with the cars. Let's say you wanted to go to a track, a racetrack, wanted to drive fast. Maybe you'd go see a racing instructor. They assume you have your driver's license and that you've been to some supplements. Now you want to go fast. This is where we get real crazy. And that activity that you just did, that's a little throwback to a technique called 1, 2, 4, all. A couple other things that I like to do. These are just some of the big things out there. We combine a bunch of those and let people kind of sign up for multiple classes at once. I can answer questions about that later on, but some people are like, Chris, what is the sweatshirt? That's what the sweatshirt is. If you'd like to go ahead and see me anytime later on, I've got some local events coming up in June and September, both for those advanced classes. If you'd like to come and see me, it would be awesome to work with you, because I think hopefully if this resonates with you, you probably have a grand old time. Matthias, do you have anything else this evening, sir?
No.
Folks,
That's it. Thank you.
that's all I have. Give yourselves a hand. If you want to take pictures of those, feel free. Those pens are yours. Those stickers are yours. Thank you all so much for spending your evening with me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.